everybody, and welcome to today's AM Power. I am your host today, Heidi Stallard, your Chief Impact Officer here at Vital Health, and I'm so excited to be with all of you. I love our AM Power calls because they just get me fired up for the day. So I see a lot of you are dropping where you're coming in from in the chat below. Go ahead and do that. I'm excited to be here with you guys. These calls are hosted every single Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. That would be 8 Pacific, 9 Mountain, 10 Central, and 11 Eastern. So if you are able to hop on live, I always recommend doing so because obviously there is nothing like being around a live active fire. But if for some reason you need to catch the recording, make sure that you go ahead and follow and download our podcast on any streaming platform as well as YouTube. So you can use Spotify, you can use Apple Podcasts, you can catch us on YouTube, wherever you're coming in from. I want to go ahead and welcome you, whether you're tuning in live or as a replay. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, you guys, hello, my name is Heidi Stallard. Like I said, I'm your Chief Impact Officer here at Vital Health. I am coming to you guys out of right outside of Fort Worth, Texas. And today, my topic is going to be covering leadership landmines. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we actually shared this on this workbook on our call or on another call that I did. It's called From Zero to Hero, A Millionaire's Guide to Network Marketing. And you can actually find this in your board's app. So if you're wondering where I'm getting some of this material from, this book is already digitally available for you to have access to. Okay, Amber printed hers. Yes, I would highly recommend getting it printed if you're able to. It is quite lengthy, so you might just go ahead and make a little side note to yourself to print it in black and white, unless you have a printer at home. Then we're gonna go ahead and get started, you guys. I'm so excited to talk about this because my husband and I, we've been in the industry now for over 10 years, and we have, I think any mature leader has gone through different leadership landmines because a huge part of this experience in this industry is really learning and applying. And that is something that you should write down first and foremost today, because that is truly the cycle to learning something and mastering any skill, is to learn it and apply it, and learn it and apply it. And after you apply it, what do? You review, and then you learn a little bit more, and then you apply again. And so, as John Maxwell would say, it's plan, do, review, right? You learn a little bit, you plan it all out, you do it, and then you review it, and you just keep going in layers. And even now, 10 years in, you guys, after, considering when I feel like I've mastered certain skills, if I'm not actively learning and hopping on calls or listening to podcasts like this one, your knife will get dull. And so you want to make sure that when you're taking your knife or your axe, I should say, and you're trying to chop down that big tree or that big goal, right? You want to make sure that your axe is as sharp as possible. So you want to you don't just want to start hacking away at your goal, because if your axe is dull, it's going to be ineffective, right? Spending a little bit of time sharpening your tools, sharpening your skill sets is what will allow you to be more effective, more dynamic, and just overall have an easier, more well-rounded experience in anything in life. Okay, so that is an analogy that you can take into any situation in life, whether it's learning a new sport, whether it's parenting, whether it's, learning how to public speak, or, developing your skills in this business, or really anything in life. So today's leadership landmines, I love talking about skills like this because they're truly applicable to anything in life. And I'm going to share with you guys, obviously, the context of our business, how these leadership landmines apply. But I also want you, before we even dive in today, to start thinking about, where are you a leader in your life? Because some of us, when we first get started in this business, you don't necessarily, you don't inherently have that identity of a leader. But I want you to understand that if you are on this call today, every single one of you is a leader. Even if you just started 30 minutes ago and you don't have a team yet, it doesn't matter. You were born with the identity to lead first yourself and then others to greatness. And so I just want to go ahead and highlight that today. And before we dive in, and I want to reframe your mindset around like making sure you understand that one, first and foremost, that yes, you are a leader. We're gonna treat you as leaders, we're gonna train you up as leaders, and we want you to go and create more leaders. And the first way to do that is really by leading yourself. So good job, you're here today, or you're listening to this on a podcast. The other thing is that I want you to think about, where else are you a leader in your life? Now, I don't care if you're single, you're not married, don't have kids. You obviously have something going on in life. Like, yes, it's very easy if you're a parent. If you're a parent, you're like, okay, I'm a leader of these little children, right? You might be like, have a little tribe at home, but even if you don't, if you have a job, you are a leader in your workplace. Now, you may not have the title of like a C-level executive or a CEO, but you're a leader for your position. You're a leader for your role within the company. So today, as I actually go through and talk about leadership landmines that are applicable to this business, I want you to have in your mind where you can actually apply this in other areas of your life too. Because I'm a firm believer that when we commit to the path of growth, all areas of our life grow. And if you're going to grow in one area, it's just going to translate over. For several years I did fitness competitions, and I realized that during that journey my business grew because I was practicing the same elements or the same character, traits in that as I was in my business, right? Discipline, being scheduled, taking time to really evaluate if what I was doing was working, having a check-in every single week to see if I was progressing towards my goals. And so those things naturally translated over to my business. And so I just want you to be thinking about today as we go through this, like, what other areas of your life could these potentially apply to? Because I believe if you can apply them to multiple areas of your life, your business, and somewhere else, you're going to get even more out of this today. So let's go ahead and dive right in. You guys have got already. We are at 10:08. I want to get you guys off here by 10:30 today, Central Standard Time. So let's dive right into number one leadership landmine is today's success. Meaning that yesterday's home runs do not win today's games. What got you here is not going to be what will keep you here. In fact, if you are somebody that is at bronze, those same people that helped get you to bronze will not be the same people that get you to silver or gold or platinum or emerald or diamond. For every level that you progress forward, there's going to be a new level of other leaders that you're going to have to unlock in order to progress further. And you never want to rely, on any of your old success. Like, you want to treat every day as if you're brand new day one. If everybody, I think a lot of times we have this goal in mind, like every day I want to be a diamond. But the truth is that if you had the mindset that every day you wanted to go bronze, you would have no problem going diamond and beyond. So make it a goal every day to work like a bronze. Make it a goal every day to build a bronze factory of people that are out there actively, recruiting in their business, actively getting customers, actively, working on themselves, learning new skills, things like that. And I just want to say too, like, the same goes for failure. Okay. So like, if there's something that you failed in, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or even last week, don't carry it over today. Right? Today is a brand new slate. Keep moving forward and just keep progressing, right? Sometimes we say, oh, I didn't do very good at that last week. I guess this week is going to happen the same. No. The beautiful part about this too is that we're only on a Tuesday, y'all. We're only a couple days into the week. So you have the opportunity right now to change your perspective and to change your mindset, have that momentary shift in time right now to say that the rest of this week is going to be even better than the last one. Okay, so build on your success. Don't ever sit on it, right? I had a mentor 10 years ago. She said, if you want to be, if basically like, if you want better, you're going to have to get better. But if you want things to stay the same, you're still going to have to get better. So, and I was like, ooh, that, obviously, if you want more, you got to do more. If you want to be better, you got to get better. That made sense to me. But when she said, but if you want things to stay the same, you still have to get better. So you're either growing or you're dying. Make the goal growth and you'll always be moving forward. So, um, I would just say the first thing we need to do is recognize this landmine and always make sure that you are keeping growth as the focus and you're developing. A sign of growth is when what you did yesterday no longer thrills you, not because you're bored, but because you're growing. You'll like have that moment where you celebrate it, but you're like, you know what? I want more. And there's nothing wrong with that. You were designed to become all that God created you to be and to fulfill your potential. So, leadership. So, number one's leadership landmine is today's success. Yesterday's home runs do not win today's games. Number two, this is a big one, probably the biggest in my opinion, is losing touch with your people because it's the most easily preventable. Okay, number two, leadership landmine, losing touch with your people. An isolated leader is an ineffective leader. So if you are not building relationships or communicating at the very least with your team, then you will not be an effective or persuasive leader. You will not be effective at all. Um, and this is a landmine, I will say, like for a while, I was like, man, I was like, I think as I was growing up as a leader, you know, I was like thinking in my head, like I did have the thought at one point that leadership was lonely. And then I realized, first of all, that is deceit. That is not true. Leadership should never be lonely. There should always be people with you if you're truly leading. But I had fallen into that trap. And I tell you this because some of you are like, oh, some of you will probably have the idea, oh, that will never happen to me. And then others are like, I'm going through that right now, where maybe you're feeling like leadership's lonely. And the fastest way to remedy that is to build relationships. So I had very much like, I remember a specific time, I was probably 2 or 3 years into my journey. I remember a very specific time where I was feeling like, man, this is very lonely, this and that and the other. And I realized after having a talk with my mentor that I was really managing and I wasn't leading. And so if you feel like your business is draining you, it's because you're not literally, I mean, I don't know how to say this any better, but like we always say, your lifeblood is in the new blood, right? Meaning like the growth of your organization is always going to be coming from the newest people. But I always interpreted that for myself as like your lifeblood is in the new people. Meaning like the joy that I get from this business is from connecting with people and hearing new stories and like getting to know their why and what is it that motivates them in this business. So leadership should never be lonely. And if you find that you have this big team and it's lonely, I would challenge you to ask yourself the question, am I leading or am I just communicating? Like, are you just managing or are you building relationships? Because when you start to build relationships with people, it ignites your fire. Right after a while, you might start to feel like your why is a little dry. Well, then you need to go find out what somebody else's why is. And that will give you a totally new take on this business to continue growing. But communication will always rule the nation, you guys. Leaders just listen to their people. That's the number one quality of a leader is to listen to your people. Like be there for them. Just be an available human. Now, that doesn't mean that you're like the emotional, dumping ground. This is not Dr. Phil, right? You are not meant to be the camp counselor of the chaos, right? You are simply meant to listen to people and actually help them find a solution or direct them, say, hey, can I give you some coaching? Or what do you think would be a good solution for this? So first we got to recognize the landmine. Then we got to get, back into touch with people so that you avoid positional thinking. Leadership is a group effort. Like to me, it's like, to be the leader of something is actually less of like in my mind, it's like less like, oh, that person's the leader. It's like a leader is really somebody that's just the person that has like gotten good at rallying everybody together to work together. That's what it is. Leadership has nothing to do with position, but has everything to do with your influence. So it doesn't matter, again, if you're a bronze or you're a diamond in this business, like if you are somebody that has just like a couple people on your team, it's about influence, and influence is built through relationships. So it's not about a title here. But yeah, so number 3, leadership landmine is betrayal of trust. Whew, man. Trust is like a piece of paper. Once it's crumbled, it will never be the same again. It is it's so easy. It's a free gift and people squander it all the time. But trust is truly the foundation in which every relationship is built. Receiving trust from others is a result of character, confidence, and consistency. So if you're wondering how you can build trust with people, whether it's your prospects, your customers, your team, your children, your coworkers, right? Thinking of those things, like how can you build trust? Because trust also leads to influence. Um, you know, it's a result of your character, the confidence that they have in you, and consistency. And I will just tell you that if you have character and consistency, that's going to build that confidence with people anyways. So doing the right thing all the time and being consistent, keeping your word is a big deal. Showing up when you say you're going to show up. I remember, I used to work at this place 12 years ago, and there was a girl there, and we had like a pretty good little like squad of girls that we all like worked together and hung out sometimes. And she ended up earning the nickname Snowflake because she was the flakiest person ever. She anything that she had, like we all showed up for each other all the time for different things, but anytime you needed her, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there. Your birthday party for sure. Gotcha. Hey, you know what? You need me to pick you up on the way to work on Tuesday? Yep, totally got you." And it got to where it was like, dude, her name, well, I won't say her name. But her nickname was Snowflake. And it was so bad. It wasn't even like anybody was saying it behind her back. It was like, dude, you're a snowflake. Like nobody can rely on you. Like so and so needed a ride to work on Tuesday. 3 other girls said they could get her, and you said, "No, I got it. It makes more sense for me." And you didn't show up. So not only was that girl having to pay for a ride or find a ride, but she was also late, which put everybody else behind our bar behind, which meant that our tip suffered. So you just gotta like show up, or things like that, So, but there were several other things that she did that everybody was like, "Damn, like you got to get it together." So you don't want to be that person in your workplace. You don't want to be that person for your kids. Okay, think about that. Like, if you tell your kids, I know it's like sometimes you gotta change mind, you gotta adjust, but, like, if you tell your kids you're gonna do something, do it. Because if you don't, what happens is there's broken trust, and as they grow, that's the filter that they have on you, and what does that do? If that becomes something that they internalize for themselves, and that's just something, like, I see a lot, like, kids don't have respect for parents that are not consistent with their word. It could be something as small as like, "We'll get ice cream later today." If you can't get ice cream, just say, "Hey," communicate that. "Hey, I know I committed that we would get ice cream later today, but we actually don't have time because we have to get to practice or we have to get here, but I promise I will make this up to you." So yes, sometimes and sometimes you have to have those conversations. Like if you've drawn your word and you can't hold it up, guys, this is something I learned in a program called Landmark. There was a whole series of a curriculum of living called commitment. And it's like if you can't follow through with your commitment, you need to communicate and like reevaluate your commitment and let people know. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's better to communicate that you need to like, yeah, fulfill it somewhere else than otherwise. But character, competence, and consistency Integrity is the basis of trust. The one quality that cannot be acquired but earned is integrity and trust. So that's leadership landmine number 3. Of course, to, get over this, we got to make sure we recognize the landmine, and we've got to value character more than success. Guys, there will be times in your business where you have to fulfill a commitment that, like, so, okay, let's give you an example here. I'm trying to think of one, because I have a couple that are popping to mind, but I'm trying to figure out how I could make this one relate the most. So focus on character more than success. So I'm going to be so real and so raw for you guys. The first time I went diamond in my first company, I remember there was this group of people that I had been working with, and they were very like inconsistent. And they would like have a meeting, and they were 3 hours away. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, we've got it. We've got 20 people coming to this meeting. All of us have coming together." And then like a day before, they would cancel the meeting. And I'd be like, "Are you serious? Like I had planned to travel. Like you guys told me for 2 weeks, like, and I had a couple of talks with them, polite talks. I was like, "Hey guys, like we got to really commit. Like if not, we can do virtual." And oh, I guess it really wasn't virtual back then because we didn't really have Zoom. It was like phone calls. But I was like, we can do a conference call, we can do 3-way calls, whatever we need to do. We can do Skype. We did use Skype a little bit back then. But I had multiple like come to Jesus conversations with this group. And I remember I was on my diamond run, and that diamond run, I was so stressed because they wanted me to come down and do 2 back-to-back meetings. And the last few meetings, they had been very inconsistent. And I was like, I could stay in town. I know I could easily help my team get like 10 new recruits in town to go diamond, but we had this meeting planned for like 2 weeks. And I will tell you, I so badly wanted to cancel the meeting because I was like, I know that this group is not going. And I checked with them every day the week before. It was on a Saturday. I checked with them every day the week before. I'm like, "Hey, are y'all sure? How many people? You good? So and so's good. All right, we still have 2 times. Like, okay, I'm going to be leaving this day. Here's I agree, Erica. I mapped out the plan. I'm like, "Hey, y'all need to understand I'm leaving my house. I'm waking up at 6 a.m. I'm getting ready. I'm going to be leaving my house at 7:30 to get gas. I should be back on the road after getting coffee and gas, like 8 o'clock, driving a few hours. I should be to you guys an hour before the meeting so we can set up. We'll have that meeting. I'll break. I've got to do a call in between our meetings, and then I'm going to, do that one. And then I'm going to probably only going to be able to stay for about an hour after to wrap things up with you guys. But then I have to get back immediately because I have a Zoom or a PBR is what we called it, a PBR back then that I needed to get back to. I had to launch another group the next day, and this was like crucial for my promotion. And I really wanted to cancel, and I didn't. And they were assured me the day before, and I showed up, you guys. And guess what? No one showed up to either meeting after me, like going through their list, checking with them. And I remember I was so heartbroken over this. But while I was there, I hit diamond. So I was like, thank God. And so we did some training. I helped them invite, and they felt awful. And I didn't make them feel awful. It was that they knew. And I remember when I hit diamond, I refreshed my back office. We were sitting there. Miles was doing part of a training. I hit diamond. I was like, "Oh my God, I hit diamond," and they're like, literally, it wasn't even like, woo, it was like, "Oh, thank God." Like they were so worried. And then they got excited because I knew them well too. But here's why I'm telling you this story. Because I built trust with that team and made my character and my commitment priority over my success. Yes, I ended up hitting it, thank God. But like the next time, like they ended up getting more serious and like more committed because they saw my level of commitment, that the next time that I needed a big push in volume, or not me, but like the team needed a big push in volume, they freaking came through. And it was such a cool journey to see like this small group of people, like each of their personal development journey, how they became more committed, how they ended up inviting, how they all ended up rank promoting. I think all of them were rank promoted, but like one of them, but ended up being like a really good customer gatherer. And so it was just amazing to see that. And so I tell you that story because without, you know, making sure that I had I mean, can you imagine had I not shown up to that? And put my success, yeah, I would have hit diamond regardless, blah, blah, blah. But like, what would that have done to that portion of the team? I would have broken trust with them. That would have shown them that my success is more important than their success. I would have not been able to see their journey of them blossoming and their families be impacted. It matters every moment. Okay. So just know that like you will have, times in your business where you're going to have to value character over success, especially as you become like more developed, guys. Okay. So leadership landmine number 4, failure to think realistically. Now, here's what I'll tell you about that one. The first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. Okay, make realism the basis of your organization. The numbers are good enough. The testimonials are good enough. There is no reason to have overhyped smoke and mirrors here. It's truly good enough. You don't need to fudge it. So make reality the basis of your organization and paint a clear picture for people. Because if you're the leader that's like, we're going to take this team in the next 24 hours, and you've like, not built like a big enough network or don't know enough people, you're like, in the next 24 hours, we're going to go diamond, right? Your team is looking for you to really set them up on a plan for success that's realistic. So you have to think about the foundation of the 3 levels of achievement. When you're talking about goals, like don't oversell something. I remember I had, and I've guiltily, just naively been a part of them, but I'll take responsibility. But like, I remember latching onto these like team missions that it was like, there is no way we can accomplish what we're setting out to do in the short period of time. And so if you do that, it does like kind of create this like identity within the team, like, okay, we're just going to spout stuff off and not really follow through with it because it's not really realistic. But if you set a goal that is realistic for your team or realistic for themselves that they can achieve, that will be better. Yeah, that's over promising, right? You always want to under promise and over deliver. So look at realism as a friend, not a foe. Some people are like, well, it just doesn't sound good enough. I'm like, no, here it does, I promise. So first, you got to recognize the landmine, but then you got to Jack Welch's 6 rules for successful leadership. 1, control your destiny or someone else will. 2, face reality as it is, not as it was or what you wish it was. 3, be candid with everyone. 4, don't manage, lead. 5, change before you have to. 6, if you don't have to have a competitive advantage, don't compete, right? So, and we have the unfair advantage, as Mr. James would say. So number 5 is poor timing. I'm going to move quickly through these next ones because we only have a minute left, but I want to get you guys off here in the next couple of minutes. Look, I'm not holding up to my word. I'm going to tell you guys I'm going to take an extra 3 minutes. Okay. That's my commitment to you. The difference between a home run and a long foul ball is timing. Okay. So the wrong action at the wrong time equals disaster. The wrong action at the right time equals a mistake. The right action at the wrong time just equals resistance, and the right action at the right time equals success. Okay, so understanding that one of the leadership landmines is just poor timing, right? So the 3 seasons of timing will change. When they hurt enough, or here it says, when the 3 seasons of timing is when people will change. So this is basically talking about like one of the leadership landmines is understanding like what people's timing is in general, right? A no now does not mean no forever. The 3 seasons of timing when people will change is when they hurt enough that they have to. That was me over 10 years ago. Was, I remember actually David did a presentation and he said something like, when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change, that's when you'll change. And I was like, I am in so much pain. I cannot stay the same. I have to change. Like I am desperate for change. So, Number two is that they'll learn enough that they want to change. So that means people will just have to grow, right? Or they receive enough that they're able to. Sometimes people are just running on empty. So you have to give them time. Maybe they're going through a season of life where they're reinventing themselves, going through a divorce and a custody battle. Maybe they're grieving. Maybe they're moving across the country. Maybe they are a new parent and they're adjusting to parenthood. They might just need time to get their cup full before they can invest in something else. Erica, I saw your comment. I'm going to repeat this. So timing, right? So here, this is again in your board's app. So it's called From Zero to Hero, Millionaire's Guide to Network Marketing. But it's the wrong action at the wrong time equals disaster. The wrong action at the right time equals a mistake. The right action at the wrong time equals resistance, and the right action at the right time equals success. Now, number 6 is inconsistency with what you say and what you do. We kind of already have talked about this. I'm actually not going to elaborate too much on this because I feel like this really went along with making sure we have trust with people, but people will do as you say, not as you do, right? Stanford research says that 89% of what we learn is actually by what we see. So if your team isn't doing what you want them to do, then show them. Do it yourself. What you do speaks so loud that people can't hear what you say. So if you're not doing anything, right, and that shows up louder. Number 7, advancing in position but not personal growth. It is okay to be over your head because you grew into the next position, but it is not okay to be over your head because or to be over your head if you were given your next position. I'm going to re-say that again for you guys. It's okay to be over your head because you grew into the next position, but it's not okay to be over your head if you were given the next position. I want you to think about this in your workplace, in your parenting journeys, advancing in position, but not personal growth. So if you have grown into a fast rank, my number one advice for you is to double down on your personal development. You might be overwhelmed, but man, if you want to make sure that overwhelm goes away, you got to grow your capacity quickly. So personal development, calls like this, things like that. Make sure that you're looking at personal development, books, audios, YouTubes, things like that. Number 8 is personal insecurities. I'm going to read this quickly. Insecure people usually hurt themselves, but insecure leaders hurt themselves and others. Insecure leaders want control. Insecure leaders are foreign to the word empowerment. Insecure leaders fear public failure. Insecure leaders avoid risk. They would rather not try they would rather not try than not know. Insecure leaders are closed in their relationships. Insecure leaders do not know their tens because they do not want to look bad. And basically meaning like they don't know who their leaders are because they don't want to have anybody supersede them, right? Insecure leaders resist change. Insecure leaders fail to affirm and empower others. Insecure leaders stay in their comfort zone. Insecure leaders see others through their insecurities. Insecure leaders can create an environment of insecurities. The most dangerous people in the world are insecure leaders. The safest people in the world are secure leaders. Let me read this back to you again in a different way. Secure people don't hurt themselves, and secure leaders don't hurt themselves or others. Secure leaders do not desire control. Secure leaders make the word empowerment very familiar. Secure leaders don't fear public failure. Secure leaders don't avoid risk. Secure leaders would rather try than not know. Secure leaders are open in their relationships, and secure leaders know their tens. They're people who are better than because they don't care if they look bad. More importantly, it's not even that they don't want to look bad, it's that they don't fear looking bad. Secure leaders are open to change and adapt quickly and easily. Secure leaders never fail to affirm and empower others. They always empower others and affirm them. Secure leaders get out of their comfort zones. Secure leaders see others through their strengths and never call them by their insecurities or shortcomings. Secure leaders create an environment of security and empowerment. I hope that helped you guys. So be a safe place. Number 9, excuse me, the failure to make the tough call. Procrastination is a liar. 95% of the decisions a CEO will make can be made by a reasonably intelligent eighth grader. The CEO gets paid the other 5%. You just got to be willing to make the tough call. Sometimes you got to be like, you know what, that's not working, or that person, we need to rally and just kind of like be like, hey, we can't have that behavior, or you can't do that. Sometimes it's hard. You got to make the tough decisions. And number 10, failure to develop leaders. True leaders do not create followers. They create other leaders. That's the focus. Who cares who follows you? Let's create a new level of leaders, because it's only when we develop others that we will permanently succeed. Okay, so I hope you guys got a lot out of the leadership landmines today. I did go over a little bit, but I hope that it was helpful for you. Again, tomorrow we will be here, same time, same place. You can catch us live, or you can catch us on our podcast or our YouTube on any streaming platform. So thank you guys so much for being here. I'm excited for every single one of you guys, and I hope that you guys continue to grow in your leadership journey. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow.